where we explore life in Dubai one letter at a time. We're unfiltered, unapologetic, and authentic. This season, we're diving into A, and today we're looking at A for ambition. I'm thrilled to have Mustafa Abbas as our guest, someone who works in the filmmaking, storytelling, and entrepreneurial world, and he's a testament to turning big dreams into reality. Thank you, Mustafa, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You might know Mustafa as a previous Zenith cover star, so he is not new to the Zenith family, so it's great to have him back. And we're going to be talking about, like I said, ambition. So Mustafa, you have a very exciting career, past and present and future. So I want to first ask you a question. How did it start? And what inspired your journey of ambition? And was there a moment where you kind of like looked back on it and thought, yeah, that's the point where I made it?
So the interesting thing is when you're looking to, make something of yourself or give yourself a better life or you envision a better future for yourself, sometimes we tend to look for a path or a track to pursue. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The way it works is you keep doing the things you love and you keep trying to achieve the things you want to achieve or accomplish. And you look back and you see that there's actually you've been leaving a path behind you. So I think it's very troublesome for anyone to feel like they've made it or they've succeeded or they've achieved. I think it's important to pat yourself on the back and say, okay, let me count all the wins, because that's motivating, as opposed to, beating yourself up and slamming yourself down. That's unhealthy. So it's important to acknowledge the wins, however little they may be in your eyes. But I think it's, I go back to my original point, it's troublesome to feel like you've made it. So when you ask something like, when did your journey begin? It's tricky because it's like, has it ended? Has it reached its middle? Has it reached its quarter? So it's very subjective when it began and when it, as you said, past, present, future.
So would you say that so I think, personally, I would say you have made it. Is that not something you would like classify yourself as?
Well, it's very kind of you to say that because I trust your judgment. So I know you're a kind person, but you also have a valid opinion. So it's very nice of you, Bilal, to say that. I don't personally feel that. And I don't know what that feels like to begin with. And if you spot anyone who has that belief that they've made it, I mean, surely, in my opinion, that can't look positive. If you're carrying that around, I've made it. That doesn't look positive to me. So I don't know what that feels like.
I feel like my career trajectory has been such that. So I don't know how. Obviously, we know each other outside of this. I've worked in social media for a long time. I got into writing when I moved to the Middle East, but I was unfortunately struck down with a brain tumor, and I had a brain tumor surgery in Dubai, and I moved back to home to London to be close to my family and to also have further surgery. So I feel like for me, when I look at something as I've made it, it's an internal thing. So I feel like I've made it to a certain point with Zenith, and I think there's only ways we can go up and we can like grow from there. But I would like to think that Zenith has made it. So I also think it's also an internal thing. So it's interesting to hear that you think, or you don't have an opinion of whether you made it or not, because that. I don't know. I feel like you've made it. I think people online and around the world would probably say you have made it.
Well, I mean, just to touch on one of the things you said, I know what you've been through personally, and I'm very, very glad that you're doing better, and you always have my support, and you deserve all good things, health being the top of them, of course. It's the most important one. So, and it's beautiful what you said in terms of you feeling like you have made it. Absolutely. You've survived something terrible and challenging. So in your case, it does apply. But in terms of success, whether it's a career thing, I would look at it a bit differently. You know what I mean?
No, totally. So do you believe in things like manifestation? And do you believe in things like that? And do you do, like, for example, I do a vision board every year. Do you do things like that when you're...
I mean, look, you do accomplish it in your mind way before you do in reality. So that is manifestation, I suppose. I do vision boards as well. I do journaling as well. I have a whole practice called futuring, which I do, which is similar to, the things you want to accomplish or the things you quote unquote have already accomplished, but you're actually manifesting. So you basically thank the universe for giving you something before you receive it. It's a delicate practice because you don't want to feel like it's done, because then you'll stop attracting it. So it's a delicate one. But yeah, I mean, I believe in prayer first and foremost. But beyond that, I believe in self-improvement, because your subconscious mind is connected to the universe. So what you believe you're gonna get subconsciously is what you actually attract. So it can be tricky, because sometimes what people do is they tell themselves they're attracting something, but deep down they don't believe what they're saying, so they're actually pushing it away. So you have to believe in it, and you have to believe that you're attracting it subconsciously.
So is that like an offshoot of like visualization, of like visualizing what you want and attracting that? Is that kind of something that you like to do in your like career?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe the best time to do that is when you're meditating. I think it's the best time to do that, because that's when this is what I understand, that your subconscious is the most relaxed when you're meditating, or you tap into, what we call the theta state, right before falling asleep or right when waking up. So this is when your subconscious is, I think, the most sensitive to suggestions. So you can penetrate the subconscious that way. So while meditating, it's a good time to practice affirmations. Yeah.
Yeah. So just speaking of visualization, can you think of a time where you actually visualized something and it came to life?
Well, it's very interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a few days ago about this. It's like you sit in a restaurant, you look at the menu, you order something, you get lost in your conversation with your friend, and then it's on your table. And if you try to simplify the practice of manifestation or attracting something to yourself to that, I believe you have a chance, because then you take it for granted. I've ordered the steak. You've taken it for granted. The steak's going to come to you. You're not worried, will it come to me? Am I going to get the steak? It's only the people who are negative about the food or the order or the restaurant or the experience. That's when things go wrong for them. Is it going to be rightly cooked? Is it going to be medium the way I ordered it? Is it going to be overcooked? Is it going to be the right meat? Is it going to taste fine? It's when you're anticipating all these negative things, that's when things go wrong. But you've ordered the steak. You can't wait to try the steak. You're excited for the steak while indulging in a nice conversation with your friend. And the steak comes to you. And Islamically, we say Bismillah before eating, which is in the name of God. And after you finish eating, you say Alhamdulillah, which is thank God for the blessing that is, in front of you. So yeah, manifestation is similar to that. So yeah, you have to see it in your mind way before you can attract it.
Yeah, I think like an example, when I lived in Dubai, I worked for a magazine, and I loved writing, but I wasn't enjoying the job. And I really thought to myself, I can take all of these skills that I've learned and I can put it into something that I'm in charge of and that I'm leading and I'm pushing forward. And that's how Zenith came to light. So I think for me, manifestation really does work, because I manifested this magazine and I manifested something really beautiful and working with the most amazing people around the world. And so for me, like, manifestation came from me reading online and talking to people. So what would you say to people that want to start manifesting? How can they start it?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I think most of the answers are in what you just described. Like, you manifested the magazine, but you also worked on it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
You had a vision for this. You had an idea of what you wanted to call it. You thought about the vibe and the feel, and you kept, most importantly, you kept your values intact. You interview people you're genuinely interested in. You write about topics you actually care about. So you kept your values intact. That's very important. It's when you're manifesting something, or when an opportunity presents itself, I think the first thing we have to ask ourselves is it aligned with our values? Is it aligned with our authentic self? It's an important question to ask. So yeah, you absolutely manifested it, but you also worked towards it. And the more you worked towards it, the more it came closer to you.
Just on that, do you think there's a fine line between taking action and manifestation? Because I personally feel like they work hand in hand. But you can sometimes manifest something without taking action because it's meant for you. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but like in Islam, like when something is meant for you, nothing can stop it from coming to you. So do you think there's a way, just in your own personal life or your own view, that you can manifest without taking action, or do they have to be hand in hand?
I think we do it on a daily basis. Because like I said, I believe your subconscious is connected to the universe. And I believe a lot of the things we are responsible for attracting, maybe negative things that happen, we blame a higher power for it. But in actuality, we're the ones who need to take responsibility while remaining humble, while being grateful. Because a lot of the things you're attracting is based on your programming as an individual. the things you saw as a child, the things you believed in, your deep convictions, those are the things that are attracting things to you. Those are the things that you are manifesting, positive or negative. So I think we do it on a daily basis. But that's why it's important to take responsibility and tap into the subconscious of the things you actually wish to attract.
I think a lot of your work is in it's right to assume it's in a creative field, be that your directing, be that your other businesses or endeavors. How do you find that creative spirit? Like, are you inherently a creative person, would you say?
I would say I'm inherently a passionate person. That's what I would say. And passion is a very, very tricky thing, because sometimes you're passionate in one thing, but that's not serving you. Sometimes you're talented in something else, but you're passionate in something else. So it's important to, every now and then do a, quote unquote audit. Is the thing I'm passionate about, is it serving me? Is it actually giving something back to me? Because you have every right to ask that question. A lot of it is about give and take. So if you're only taking, of course, that's obviously a negative, but if you're only giving, that also is a negative. So you need to ask yourself, is it serving me? Is it suiting me? Is it giving me something back? And I wrote about this a few days ago online about passion. People try to simplify a very complex thing. They try to say, as long as you're passionate, you'll make it. No, that's not how it works. First of all, motivation is just excitement. Motivation is not going to pay the bills. Motivation is not going to be there long term. Motivation comes, goes. Call it a feeling, call it an emotion, call it whatever you want. The thing between motivation and your goal or your objective is your discipline. And discipline is not as exciting or not exciting at all. You know what I mean? So going back to passion is you get passionate or motivated initially about a specific thing. And then things get real. Like with your magazine. You saw that, okay, I love what I'm doing, but it's a challenge. It's difficult. It's got its ups and downs. And then when it reaches a specific point where you're like, okay, you kind of get excited again. And that's when passion finds its way back to you. And that second kind of passion is very different than the initial kind. It's a more matured version. So that's a privilege that we have to earn. You can't buy that. You have to earn that one.
When did you first find that passion that you speak of?
Again, it's a very good question, and I'm not sure when it happens. There's no beginning point or end point, because you're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have... The game goes on. It's not like you learn one lesson and you go like, oh, I know this now. That's it. I'm set for the future. No, you're not. You're going to have obstacles, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have roadblocks, you're going to have knots you have to undo, but that's part of it. The game goes on. Yeah. And you keep learning and you keep growing, and by the grace of God, you keep succeeding by overcoming those obstacles. Even if that obstacle is you. You're getting in your own way sometimes because you're afraid to outshine somebody else, or you're afraid to outshine yourself, or you're afraid of your own power.
Have you ever had people in your life, be that like friends, family, or you don't have to go into it, but who have told you that your dream is not worth like going for? And how have you like navigated that?
I mean, I think it's impossible that you find someone who hasn't had that. I think that's a tricky part, that you find someone who hasn't. But look, the most important thing is you and your vision and the thing you want to accomplish. That's the most important thing. So if you share your entire vision with someone before doing it, not my style of doing that. I don't think it's necessary, because it's like, what are you doing it for? Are you seeking a validation, approval? Are you seeking... It's very different than seeking advice. Seeking advice is seeking knowledge. It's a beautiful thing. But if that's what you're trying to do, why are you trying to do it? Because success has nothing to do with validation, or it should not have anything to do with validation. Oh, I'm so glad I did that. I got a pat on the back. No, that's not the point. If you're looking for success to get a pat on the back, there are easier ways. So that's beside the point. The most important thing is that, clear the path between you and what you want to accomplish. That's the most important thing. So if someone's in your way, get them out of your way. If something's coming there, like an obstacle, like we talked about.
Okay, so moving back to the name of your episode, it's A for Ambition. So when have you felt the most ambitious in life?
I mean, I wish I could give you a a point or a date or a time, but I think it's something that stays with you and within you. And the thing that makes you push yourself more is you want more, or you want to give more. It's not about taking. You want to give more. You want to share more. You want to be better. And I think that's the most thing I'm ambitious about, to be honest. Because if, there's one rule in life, people always there's a big difference between being entitled to something and being self-entitled. They're two very, very different things. If you've put in the work, you are entitled to it. If you go for, you're working at a job, you're putting in the work, you're entitled to your salary. You're putting in the work. Self-entitled is an opinion. You might be right, but if you're behaving entitled, chances are that's negative, or it's going to turn negative. And the main rule is, going back to that point, the main rule is if you want more, you have to be more. And this applies to everything. This applies to monetary success. This applies to internal success. This applies to success in relationships. This applies to everything. If I want more, I have to be more. And this is something a lot of people don't understand. They demand things from the universe or from God. They feel entitled to things they're not entitled to yet. Whether it's, the perfect partner they're looking for, or the kind of salary they're looking for. Because they're not looking within as much. They're just looking without. They're looking at how somebody else accomplished it. They're looking at how this guy posted something on YouTube and he became a pop star overnight. That's his journey. That's not your journey. Are you trying to mimic his journey? Yeah. Or are you trying to mimic his result? They're both wrong. You have to look within, find your own journey, and you will find your own results.
So I want to play a quick game with you. It's called Manifestation Matchup. So I'm going to give you two options of things, and you can pick one that resonates more with you. So the first one is vision boarding or journaling. Which should you prefer?
I mean, I do both, but do I have to choose one?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I journal more than I look at my vision board. So
what is it about journaling that you love? Because I can't get into it.
I think there is some magic in writing things with your own handwriting and then reviewing it later on. I think it's more personal than maybe, sticking images onto a board, even though I practice vision boards and I love it. But yeah, I think there is something more personal with that.
And how do you journal? Like, what do you write about? Like, your day, or like, what's the process of it? Because I've always been interested.
I have different journals, to be honest, for different practices. But the main one is things you want to achieve, things you want to accomplish, traits you'd like to adopt, the person you would ultimately like to become, etc.
Okay. So do you have like a special notebook, or is it like anyone that you find?
No, I do, definitely. I mean, I have 3 specific ones, and then I have a lot of like regular notebooks just sitting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
There's the ones for dabbling, and then there's the ones for the actual bullet points.
Yeah.
Of your life, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Early morning or late night inspiration?
Inspiration is always late night.
Is there a specific scenario that comes to mind when I say like late night inspiration?
No, I think it goes back to what we talked about, the subconscious and tapping into the theta. I think the sleepier you get, the more you're prone to getting inspired or getting ideas or motivated or etc. Yeah.
Okay. Because I've recently started this new thing. So I was always a late sleeper and I'd get up really late. But now I've decided I'm going to sleep at 9 p.m. and I'm up every day at 7 o'clock and I start work from 7 a.m. And it's really changed my, everything. It's changed my views of work. It's changed the way it's literally changed everything. And I can't, I can't big it up enough. I loved it in that.
Anybody who ever succeeded in anything knew that there is magic in the morning. There is a magic in the morning. If you wake up early, how do you feel when you wake up at 12 p.m., 1 p.m.? You feel terrible.
Yeah.
Even if it's a weekend, you'll feel terrible. Whereas when you mindfully wake up at a specific hour, 7 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever, you will absorb that magic for sure.
I will say I love sleeping in on the weekend.
Sure, where you're allowed once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Because you've factored it in, you've done it deliberately, so it's fine. It's a conscious choice.
Like yesterday, I woke up at, I think, 12:30.
Yeah.
But then I went to sleep early because I was like, I've got to get up early tomorrow. It's Monday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I allow myself a little luxury on the weekend.
That's fine. You're allowed.
Dreaming big or staying grounded?
Are they opposites?
What do you think?
I don't think they're opposites. No,
What
I
would
don't
you
think
hear?
they're opposites. I would go for dreaming big, of course. But the problem with that, if it's okay for me to comment,
Please.
I think the problem with that is that too many people are looking to hit the jackpot or win the lottery. You know, for me, dreaming, that's not what dreaming big is. Dreaming big is you have to break it down into steps and you have to work on it on a daily basis. You know what I mean? If you don't do that, if you don't work on yourself and if you don't take, you don't break it into parts, what happens if you do win the lottery? Chances are you lose it all over. You lose all of it. So yeah, I think it's a again, it's a bit of a subjective term, dreaming big, but I mean, yeah, I would choose that. Yeah, because I don't think they're opposites, staying grounded or dreaming big. Yeah, staying grounded sounds like yeah, stay in your lane. No, I say no. Because even when I was like 12, 13, people would say, don't get your hopes up. I said, no, I'll always keep my hopes up. Because what kind of advice is that? Don't keep your hopes up. It's the worst advice on earth. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would say dreaming big is the opposite of staying grounded because for me, being grounded means you don't progress. Being grounded means you kind of don't. It's hard to define in my head. It makes sense in my head, but like,
Well, if it's about staying stuck, then no, fly away, dream big.
do you think it's better for visualization or verbal affirmations?
No, I think visualization for me.
Can I ask why?
I think when you vocalize it, I mean, I know you meant it to oneself, but I think when you vocalize it to someone else before you've accomplished it, I think it's a very tricky thing. I think you have to keep your mouth shut until
Yeah.
it's done.
Okay.
So
And
if I had
then
to choose, I choose that one.
if you had to plan meticulously or like just go with the flow, what would
No,
you
no, no,
want?
meticulously, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
are you like a planner person? Do you have like a
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah? I really hate having a diary,
No,
but I
I use
realize
my
that I
phone.
have to.
Yeah,
Say again?
I use my phone. So if it's about meetings and schedules, I use my phone. But otherwise, if it's a trip and we're planning on where to go and what to do, I will plan. Yeah, you don't have to plan every single detail to the point where you're not going to enjoy your holiday anymore. But you have to clearly know what you're doing and where you're going.
Hmm, of
You
course.
can you can decide. Yeah, okay, you go to one place. You can decide. Okay, we have a choice of two restaurants to go to, for example,
Yeah,
in this particular city you're visiting in. That's fine. That's okay. That's okay.
yeah.
But plan, always plan. What happens if you don't plan?
Just go with
Again,
the
are
flow.
you, yeah, but what happens then? Are you hoping to stumble upon something miraculously? Or are you breaking it down in steps in order to reach there?
But I feel like the best experiences I've had are not planned. Like if I plan too much, I feel like I'm not open to experiencing things in the moment. So I'll give you an
Mm-hmm.
example. Whenever
Mm-hmm.
I go on holiday, I hate planning in advance because I feel like when I go there, I can meet people and they'll tell me their honest opinion in the moment, and from that I can make my decision. So like when I went to Morocco recently with my dad, and we went for like 10 days, and we just sat on the beach, and I read all day, and I was writing, and it was like the perfect holiday. But my dad was like, "We need to find like restaurants to book when we got there." I was like, "No, no, no, no! I'm gonna go on the holiday, and when I meet people, I'll talk to them, and I'll say, well, what do you think? Where's a good place to go?" So from that, we found some very good restaurants, and that's the best way I think for me or for anyone to plan anything because the moment you start planning ahead of time, you never really get stuff in the moment. Does that make sense?
I think you found a method that suits you. You found a
Yeah.
method that works for you. But you did plan to, I mean, you knew there's a beach there before going there, right?
That was the whole holiday plan to sit on the beach.
So that was a plan, wasn't it?
That was the plan, yeah. That was the
There
plan,
you
you're
go.
right.
Yeah. And in terms of restaurants, your plan was to ask the locals what they recommend.
I suppose you're right, yeah. That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, cool. The next section is called Ambition Roulette. So I'm going to ask
interesting.
you some questions based on your ambition, and I want you to give me your honest and unfiltered answer. So, if your ambition was an anthem or a song, what would it be?
Oh God, I don't know. If your
You don't know.
ambition was a song, interesting. Maybe listen, I'm just coming back from the F1, so maybe the Rush soundtrack by Hans Zimmer.
Okay, nice. You like
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer, I remember. Yeah, yeah, he's cool. If your ambition was an animal, what would it be?
Wolf.
A wolf. Okay, why?
I think wolves are they're they're passionate, they're emotional, they do things consciously and deliberately, they love wholeheartedly, and they're not afraid of anything.
Hmm. Okay. If your ambition was a superpower, what would it be?
If my ambition was a superpower, my ambition, I need examples.
So my ambition would be to fly. So
Okay.
my ambition superpower would be to fly because I feel like being on the ground is not how I want to. It's not how I want my ambition to feel. I want it to feel open and free and like the ability to like reach the sky.
Well, so then is it fair to say if you could have any superpower, what would it be? Is it a similar question to that?
Essentially, yeah.
I would say I would travel through time.
Okay.
I would travel to the past, not to change anything, but just to observe,
Your
watch my
past
own.
or like historical past?
No, my past.
Okay.
And it would just be to watch it like a movie. I don't want people to know I'm there. I'm just watching. I'm just observing. So it's not, you're not going there to change anything. You're not doing the whole, time travel in that way, but it's more to kind of, that's a superpower where you can actually see and feel what's in front of you, which is the
Yeah.
past. Because my fascination, what I'm fascinated with is time. I'm fascinated with time. So I would like to do that. And I'm very nostalgic.
Okay. You are looking for a mentor to fuel your ambition. Who would you look for? Who is your dream mentor, dead or alive?
Oy, they would have to be dead, and I would have to, you're going to have to let me pick more than one person.
Go for it. Top three.
5, if you don't mind.
Top five.
Maybe. I would say Napoleon Hill,
Okay.
Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, Dale Carnegie, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
You have to forgive me, but I don't know who any of those people are.
Yeah, you will,
What what do they do? Who are they?
I mean, they're more than just one thing. I believe they're some of the wisest men who ever lived. I believe these people understood what life is about, and they really mastered what it means to be a success as an individual, not just financially.
Hmm.
If I could sit with them, my God, that would be fascinating. For an hour, I mean, even. Yeah.
Amazing. And then last question. You're in a creative, let's say hypothetically, you're in a creative rut. What's your go-to strategy? So what's your ambition SOS? What do you do to get you out of that creative rut?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't force myself to come up with an idea. I don't force myself to act on something I don't believe in. So I have to sit and I have to take a step back. Usually, when you're in a rut like that, you fall in a ditch.
Hmm.
You think the most important thing to do is to take a step forward. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's to take a step backwards or to stay still. Because I believe stillness is in some ways as important as acting.
Yeah.
But it's delicate. It's case by case. I wish I could say it's one size fits all, but it's not.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Um, okay, cool. Last segment is called the Zenith. So Zenith means the epitome or the best. So I want to talk about some of your Zenith moments. So moments in your life, your career that have really spurred who you are. Thinking about like ambition and manifestation, can you think of a standout like example in your career where you really went after what you wanted?
I mean, look, even if you look at the movies I've made or the awards and stuff, which is all amazing, which is all beautiful, and I'm so grateful for them. I think, but that inner feeling where you've really done something right, I think is when you're disciplined with your finances. When you're disciplined with your finances and you decide to invest in something, whether it's real estate or stocks or whatever, I think it was about a couple of years ago, it was maybe, a few years ago. So it's the first time I invested in something. I'm like, okay, that felt like a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
That actually is probably the only memory I have of when I actually got that feeling. And every time I invest in something instead of spending it, I feel that feeling again.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's important to shine a light on how important it is for you to be disciplined with your finances, to understand financial literacy, to decide how much you'd like to invest versus how much you'd like to spend. Doing that, I think, started I mean, I was in my maybe mid-30s when I started feeling that for the first time, you know? Yeah.
Are there any specific rituals or like practices? I know you mentioned like Islam and prayer, but thinking of that aside, are there any like specific rituals or practices that you put into your day-to-day life to help with your ambition and your manifestation?
So the important thing to do is when you have your vision board, you have to keep looking at it, right? When did you start doing vision board? When was the first time you created your vision board? Yeah.
I created one after my surgery, so last November was my first official vision board.
And how many things have come to life from that vision board?
I'll tell you what's on my vision board. So on my vision board was to launch the Zenith Awards, which we did. So
Which you
that definitely came true. To go on the Orient Express, that did not come true.
It will.
Inshallah, this year. To travel to Jordan, that did not come true. But things that did come true were like financial independence, social media consistency for Zenith,
Yeah.
just increasing the brand and the digital footprint. And also, one big thing that didn't come true. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I really love baking and cooking. I'm really
Okay.
into like I love that kind of stuff. So I wanted to apply for the Great British Baking Show. I don't know if you know it, the Great British Bake Off. So that was on my vision board, and I got to the final, and I was this close to getting on, but I didn't get on. Taking it as a sign, put it on this year's vision board. So inshallah. So I would say about 40% of what I had on there came true.
Amazing. So that's the answer to your question. You have to keep auditing, you have to keep reviewing, you have to keep going back and actually factoring and counting the things that actually happened. So that's a very important practice. You don't just create a vision board and leave it. You don't just journal and leave it. You have to keep going back. So that's how you keep track of things, of your progress. Because otherwise there wouldn't be a way to keep track of your progress.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, these are the things I want to accomplish, and you go back and you're like, oh wow, I accomplished that one. Like that.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, cool. Just kind of wrapping it up. So, what's on your vision board for next year? What are you manifesting for next year?
No, so I have one vision board that I made about 5 years ago,
Okay.
almost 6 years ago, and it's the bigger things. It's the long-term stuff. They're not just bullet points. It's actually a vision, right? Because it's a vision board. It's a vision for the things like I want to accomplish and achieve. So I used a bit of a different method.
Okay.
A lot of people, when they create a vision board, it's things that, you know, it's the expensive car, the big house, which is not wrong, by the way. Putting these things on your vision board, it's not wrong. But I used a different method. I listened to an audiobook all about vision boards. And the first advice the lady gave was cut out things from magazines that give you a feeling, even if you don't understand what that feeling is. And it might have been a picture of a beautiful event, you know, with a candlelit event. It might have been, you know, somewhere in the Swiss Alps. It might have been. These are things I stuck onto my vision board, along with things I want to achieve in my career, of course. But ultimately, what I want for my life.
Okay. So you have like one overarching vision board, is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay. And then you journal like on a day-to-day basis to manifest that vision board. Is that right?
Well, I have one main journal, and I think the bulk of it was it's a many pages. It's many pages. So I started working on that about 8-9 years ago. But it's a whole journal, right? So it's like a book. So I don't always go back to write new things down as much as before, because the bulk of it is done. So maybe I'll write down things in. Because there's still some empty pages left. I mean, the book still has probably 20-30 empty pages. It's a big journal. But mostly it's to review the things I actually wrote down and perhaps adjust or edit.
Yeah. Amazing. Just a few final things. I personally feel like you've achieved a lot, and I'm genuinely very proud of you, and alhamdulillah how far you've come. So what does the next year look like for you?
Look, it's important for you to compound your success. It's very important. If you look back a year ago, have you ever looked back and felt like, my God, I was so stupid. My God, I didn't know anything. Have you ever gotten that feeling?
Yeah, every day.
So that's a good sign, because that shows how much you've grown in the last 1 year or 2 years. Imagine that there are people who don't ever get that feeling.
Yeah.
So if you don't leave, your brain will believe what you tell it. So if you don't leave room for growth, if you tell yourself, I know, or I've accomplished, or I've achieved, or I don't need to learn. These are all very, very bad things to say. So if you
Yeah.
say these things to yourself, then how much more can you grow? How much more can you learn? So you got to compound your success. You have to continue your growth. You have to focus on your journey as opposed to a bullet point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So more. That's to answer your question. More of what we've done. More of what we've been doing.
Yeah. Nice. And for anyone listening right now who want to harness the power of ambition and manifestation, what's one piece of advice you could give them to help align their dreams?
I would say two things. I would say one is actually more than two things. It's a bunch of things, but we don't have time for it right now. But I mean, at the top of my head, what I would say is starting small is not a negative because you're focusing on progress.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to hit the jackpot or win the lottery from the beginning, it might, statistically speaking, it's going to be problematic. So if you're just looking to strike gold overnight, of course it happens. Nothing's impossible. But I mean, focus on what is working for you. Whether it's in terms of growth or in terms of investment or in terms of focus on what has worked. And you can always look back and see the things that have worked for you. And so it would require some thought and some deep thinking, some critical thinking, but you'll find a couple of things that have flowed for you. And maybe the things that have flowed for you are not the things you're crazily, deeply passionate about, but perhaps you can focus on them in the meantime. And then you can, review and decide what you want to do. The other thing is look for opportunity within. Because when we talk about success, we always feel like it's far and it's this thing we want to accomplish. And that's why people are looking to strike gold and win the lottery for that reason, because it's far. But it's actually, maybe you have a lot of opportunities much, much closer to home. So look for opportunities within, look around you. And there's nothing like a dear friend with a valid opinion who can help point those out to you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I feel like this has been very inspiring. So thank you very much. This is something I ask everyone when they finish the podcast. Is there anything you want to ask me about anything?
Yes,
Please
absolutely.
go away.
What is success to Bilal?
Oh, good question. Success to me is I have a two-pronged approach to this question. I feel like success for me is making my family proud. That's very important to me. And also success to me is doing something I love every day and waking up really excited to do it. And yeah, that's what success looks like to me.
I have one more question.
Please.
What are you ambitious about?
What am I ambitious about? In my personal life, in my professional life, in what sense?
You tell me.
Every sense. I'm ambitious about. That's a really good question. I feel like ambition for me is very, very granular. So there's a lot of things that I want to achieve that to other people don't really seem like ambition or don't really seem like success. So I'm really ambitious. I think Zenith has a really exciting future. And I think the magazine has a lot of potential. And just like this podcast, there's going to be things coming up that are really exciting. So that's one thing I'm really ambitious about. And I'm ambitious about just doing something fun and doing something really worthwhile and meaningful. I think in this day and age, it's really easy for you to be bogged down with like feeling upset about what's happening or feeling like you can't do enough or there's something going on in the world and you can't help it. So I feel like just spreading really fun and inspiring content is what I'm really ambitious about and really looking forward to doing more of. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would say to that.
Good. Well, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
You're an amazing soul and you deserve all good things.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. I really can't take compliments. I don't know what to do. But thank you, Mustafa, for being on A-Zenith. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your words and your insight. It's been a really thoughtful and interesting conversation. And I wish you nothing but success in the future, inshallah. So yeah, stay ambitious, stay inspired, and keep manifesting.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.